I thank President Trump for the honor of this nomination.
I'm a keg is half full kind of guy.
Another day, another win, another promise kept by President Trump, and another step closer to making America great again.
On behalf of our nation, I want to apologize to Brett and the entire Kavanaugh family for the terrible pain and suffering you have been forced to endure.
Brett put his hand over my mouth to stop me from yelling.
Will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed in October of 2018, a nomination that is full of question marks, alleged sexual assault, and corruption. The New York Times published an article about Deborah Ramirez, who had accused Justice Kavanaugh of exposing himself to her during a party at Yale University in the early 1980s. I need to make this clear. The allegations are not new, more on that later. Ramirez and some classmates had been drinking heavily when, she says, a freshman named Brett Kavanaugh pulled down his pants and thrust his penis at her, prompting her to swat it away and inadvertently touch it. There's more. A classmate, Max Steyer, saw Mr. Kavanaugh with his pants down at a different drunken dorm party where his friends pushed his penis into the hand of a female student. Mr. Steyer, who runs a nonprofit organization in Washington, notified senators and the FBI about this account, but the FBI did not investigate, and to that I simply say, why? If they investigate this guy over a text, why not a Supreme Court judge over sexual assault?
Alleging he's withholding a whistleblower disclosure, possibly to protect President Trump.
The director has said essentially that he is answering to a higher authority and refusing to turn over the whistleblower complaint. The director of national intelligence, the reason he's not acting to provide it, even though the statute mandates that he do so, is because he is being instructed not to.
A higher authority?
President Trump today fired back, tweeting Kavanaugh should start suing people.
Eric Reed put it best.
I found out that the officer that killed Tamir Rice was rehired. I feel like that's unacceptable. Kavanaugh was voted into the Supreme Court. That's unacceptable. I feel like our country's moving backwards.
Kavanaugh incurred large sums of debt. According to the Washington Post, Kavanaugh built up the debt by buying Washington Nationals season tickets and tickets for playoff games for himself and a handful of friends.
This is a circus.
In 2016, Kavanaugh reported having between $60,000 and $200,000 in debt accrued over 3 credit cards and a loan. The fact remains that Kavanaugh suddenly cleared at least $60,000 and as much as $200,000 in mysterious debt over 1 year, sums large enough that senators might well want to know who the sources of the payments were. A red flag. The same year Kavanaugh accumulated the highest debts of his judicial tenure, Kavanaugh also joined the Chevy Chase Club, an elite country club that counts Chief Justice John Roberts among its members and, as of 2017, required a $92,000 initiation fee. The club he joined is the Chevy Chase Club, a private members country club that is so elitist you can be a CEO, a billionaire, but you can't get in. So how did Kavanaugh? Senator Whitehouse also asked Kavanaugh whether some of his debts might relate to a gambling addiction, and even whether he ever ran up any gambling debts in the state of New Jersey, former home to casinos owned by Donald Trump. Trump casinos failed miserably, but not under Kavanaugh's watch. In 2012, Kavanaugh threw his weight behind Trump Entertainment Resorts' successful attempt to end a unionization effort at one of its casinos 6 years ago. 2 things that have a history: cover-ups and Donald Trump.
In her 60 Minutes interview, Daniels went on to say she was threatened to keep her silence about the alleged relationship with Trump.
Going to a fitness class with my infant daughter, a guy walked up on me and said to me, "Leave Trump alone, forget the story." And then he leaned around and looked at my daughter and said, "A beautiful little girl, it'd be a shame if something happened to her mom."
2 things that have a history: sexual assault and Donald Trump.
Columnist E. Jean Carroll accuses Trump of sexually assaulting her in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room 23 years ago. Carroll, the 22nd woman to step forward. 22 women. That should raise alarms.
2 things that have a history: losing money and Donald Trump.
In fact, according to the New York Times, what a story. Year after year, Mr. Trump appears to have lost more money than nearly any other individual American taxpayer.
2 things that have a history: baseball and Donald Trump.
Who discovered America's pastime long before he discovered the boardroom.
Two things that have a history: payments made and Donald Trump's benefit.
In fact, the New York Times found that time after time, with the support of two different chief executives, the bank handed money, a total of well over $2 billion, to a man whom nearly all other banks had deemed untouchable.
Create those two circles of the Venn diagram. As the variety of topics collide and mesh into one corrupt presidency, there is a common outlier: Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. If you'd like to hear more thought-provoking content like TYT Sports on Facebook and to help in my journey to keep media independent, go to tyt.com/Rick.